Okay, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you already know how it gets down when you hit the play button on this show. Whatever you may be going through, whatever challenges, whatever difficult times, whatever it is that you are facing at this current moment, we are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone. That's what we are all about on this show. That's what it's been about since its inception back in 2020. Today, I have what I like to call a kind of a philanthropic entrepreneur, someone that has just a huge heart, loves to help people, wants to see young people succeed, and has done an incredible amount of work in terms of speaking, in terms of just getting people on the right path. Founder, I believe it's Smarter Minds, correct?
Correct.
Founder of Smarter Minds, Mr. Bill Barnett. Welcome to the Move Swiftly podcast. How are you?
It is good to be with you. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Yes, and I also have to mention he is a diehard UCLA Bruins.
USC.
So I'm playing.
Oh. Okay, that's something you can't play with. UCLA is like a stepsister.
I did that with a previous guest. He was an Oklahoma fan, and I was joking around saying, "Yeah, big Texas fan," and he jumped in quickly, just like he was like, "Hey, man, hey, you're not
right." That's off limits there.
So, all that being said, man, like I said, you have a ton of things going on. You have spoken, you do a ton of work with schools, you have a book out, and all that. So, before we get into all of that, let's kind of go back to your background a little bit, because you, like I, was raised by an architect. My father is an architect as well, and I was listening, like I was telling you, I was listening to you on a previous show, and you give your parents a ton of credit for really raising you right and you're kind of putting you on the right path, which I personally, as a teacher, find that very gratifying to hear, because I know so many young people are not growing up in that situation, or fortunate enough to be in that situation. So I'll give you the microphone a little bit to kind of speak on that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, let me just start off by saying that the two most important relationships you're going to have in your life are with your parents and your spouse, your significant other.
Yes.
They shape your lives. There's somebody, because you love them and you trust them and you generally admire them, you listen to what they say. And my whole messaging and my career, everything has changed once I opened my ears to what other people were saying. And my wife has been kind of a rock for me. We've been married for 42 years.
Yes.
And
congratulations.
she knows exactly when to say what to say to me, and she is very smart. And it's great. So the parenting, you get all your skills when you're in your formative years up until you're 18, 19 years old. And then I got married, when I was 25. So those have been the two most important relationships as far as shaping my personality and my work ethic in my life.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, because I do believe it's something that gets overlooked a lot, because so much of the relationships that go on, whether it's with your coach or whether it's with friends or peers and teachers that you meet in school, those parents, man, it's so much goes on in the home. And we could probably do a whole episode talking about that, because we do a lot of work with the kids at the school I'm at. It's a brand new charter school out here in West Palm Beach, and we have to we see the result of kids going home and it's the lessons aren't being kind of reaffirmed in the household, and we see it every single day. So, when it comes to you had mentioned that you're really into sports, you're a tennis player, the whole nine. How were you able to balance those two things, like being kind of such an avid sports person, having great parents, and then eventually moving into this place where you're entrepreneuring, like you're really doing a lot of great things in the home?
So what's interesting, there's kind of a story that connects everything together.
Yes.
When I went off to college, I had a few tennis scholarships around the country at not huge schools. I always wanted to go to SC. I got a tennis scholarship to go to Gonzaga. I got a tennis scholarship to go to San Diego State. But I knew, I'm not good enough to play pro. So I want to follow my dream. I want to go to SC. So I went to SC, and that was the last year of Title IX, or the first year of Title IX. And I was on the JV team, and they cut all JV sports in favor of more women's sports. So the coach of the tennis team came over, and he said, listen, he says, I'll take the top 5 guys, and why don't you guys become ralliers for the varsity? So 3 or 4 days a week, I got to go out and hit with all the guys. It was a lot of fun. I realized how terrible I actually was. I was good enough to hit with them, but I knew I wasn't going any further than this.
Right.
It was a fabulous experience.
Yes.
But I also did one other thing. At SC, we did not have any organized student government. So I was a yell leader at SC. And it was a way for me to be close to sports because I understood a lot about sports. I was friends with guys on all the teams.
Yeah.
And while I was doing that, I was the one that got to travel. I left 2 days early before SC played all their away games, and I got to speak at all these Trojan clubs.
Wow.
And nothing changed my life or gave me more confidence than how much I enjoyed speaking in front of a group of people. I loved it, and it kind of shaped my life.
Yeah. The thing is that's crazy about that is so many people run from public speaking.
Yeah.
You know, so many experiences you hear, so many stories of people, you know, look, I'd rather die than actually have to give a speech in public. And, you know, you were speaking about things that you were very passionate about and you felt connected to the university. And one of the stories that you actually did tell that I'd really want you to share here is someone noticed that and opened a door for you, an opportunity for you when they say, man, you got the gift of gab. In fact, on this show, there's an episode titled The Gift of Gab and how much it actually opens doors for you. So, you know, kind of speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I mean, you could not have framed it any better. So I'm going we fly into Chicago for an SC Notre Dame game, and I'm on the train with all the Trojan alumni. And I happen to be sitting across the aisle from a very nice woman. She was, I don't know, 40, 45 years old. And we start talking and we strike up a conversation and we just became friendly quickly. And she says, can I ask you a question? I'd love you to meet my husband. And I said, sure, I'd love to meet your husband. She says, he's 2 cars up with a client. I'm going to get him and I want you to talk to him. She brings him back. We start talking. He was impressed. He says, man, you have got the gift of gab. He says, you are 19 years old. He says, you speak like you're a 30-year-old. And he says, I really think, he said, what are you studying? I said, I'm studying business. He says, I really think you should be in the communication school. That's where you should be. So he says, I said, let me ask you a question. What do you do? Who are you? He says, my name is so-and-so. And he says, I'm the president of Leo Burnett. Leo Burnett was the largest ad agency in the country at that time.
Right.
And anyway, long story short, I go back to SC to transfer schools on his recommendation. He had already made a phone call for me. He had already transferred me into the Annenberg School. And that basically changed my life.
Yeah.
And when I graduated a year later, a buddy of mine from high school, this goes to my networking and everything that I talk about. My friend said, hey, Bill, there's an opening here at Foot Cone & Belding, which was the large agency in LA. He says, would you be interested? He says, absolutely. It's exactly what I want to do. Anyway, that was my first job. So it goes from the train in Chicago to my first job at Foot Cone & Belding.
Yeah, but the thing is, it makes me think of so many opportunities now because like I've mentioned throughout, you know, at least to start the show, you have been done a lot of things with college kids and you have spoken and, you know, helped a lot of classes. As you look back on it now, with the advent of social media, with how we communicate, where how people kind of stay behind their screen now, not necessarily developing their people skills. And even when it comes to advertising, you know, ad agencies have kind of moved to being online and stuff like that. What advice do you give young people that are really struggling to find jobs now? You know, I just actually had a conversation with a previous guest in terms of, you know, college kids with AI and, you know, with virtual stuff, it's hard for them to actually find jobs and use this skill or even see the value of having a skill of speaking and being a communicator and stuff like that.
Right. Because of all the things you just mentioned, I'm going to play the opposite role. I'm going to tell you it's easier to get a job because all of that. And I'll tell you why. So few of these young people even think about standing out. It is so easy to stand out because so many kids are behind their computers. They're behind their phones. When they're walking down the street, they're on their phone. Look up and smile. I always tell people, if you smile at other people, you will open up doors.
Exactly. Just
smile.
Yeah.
Smile. Be friendly. Open up a door to a conversation. If you do this, you're already ahead of 80% of your competition that's looking for a job.
Yes. The thing is, though, the teaching it, though, the element of teaching it. So for me, I got into public speaking because I knew I wanted to get into coaching. I was a trainer at the time. I just put my book out, and there was a sense there where it was time for me to actually speak on certain things. So I went to Toastmasters, and it was my initiative, and I learned a lot of different things. When you're speaking to, maybe, let's say it's a younger you, where say, I'm a business major, I'm just gonna make money. How do you communicate to that kid? Hey, you know, maybe do some minor courses in communication, maybe do some things in communication that is going to make it so you have certain skill sets that is going to, whatever it is you do, you go be a damn math major, it doesn't matter. The communication skill is something you're going to need.
Yeah, if you can't sell, you will
Mhm.
never be successful.
There we
And
go.
I'm not talking about selling computers, and I'm not selling about,
Mhm.
selling software or anything like that. I'm talking about selling yourself.
Yes.
If you cannot sell yourself, I don't care how good you are in math. I don't care how
Yes.
good you are at anything. You will not be successful.
Yes.
And it starts with, and by the way, talking to you and looking at you, I can see you, you need to have confidence.
Yeah.
A person needs to have confidence. I'm not saying you have to be great in everything. God knows I'm not great in most things that I do, but
Mhm.
I'm good enough to know when I'm not good in something. And I have no problem reaching out to people that are experts in the field, but it's because I have confidence in myself that I
Yeah.
feel good about asking for help.
Mhm. And then I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a subtle difference, and for the listeners that you have to hear this, there's a difference between confidence and cockiness. All right.
Absolutely.
Just like you, I recognize I wasn't going to be good enough to play in the NFL at around that age. Just like you saw, hey, look, these are some great talent, and you have to be humble enough to realize, okay, I can still affect the game. I can still do things in the sport that I love that it's going to affect it in a different way. But look, I'm not part of that 1% that's going to go on and play pro. I'm all right with that. Now that comes with time. That comes with you kind of accepting. I'm not telling you to get over it overnight. Obviously, you put a ton of hours into it, but you do at some point have to get over it and move on to the rest of your life, so you know specifically what it is you want to do. And that actually leads me to the next thing I want to actually talk to you about is your business. Now you're speaking, you find this passion, and you have this skill. When it comes to the ad agency, how did you eventually start to develop into what you're building now with
Right.
Smart Minds and the book and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'll give you that whole background. I just got to go back to one thing you said. You said you're not part of the 1%er. Guess what? 99% of us are
Right.
not part of that 1%.
Yeah, 1%, right.
So we have to realize that when I wrote my book, I did not write it for that 1%. They don't
Yeah.
need my book. They don't
Yeah.
need advice from me.
Yeah.
It's the other 99%.
Yes.
So you're in great company. I'm in great company.
Yeah.
We both know from sports, and I know from a world of business as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so anyway, what is that? So
And speaking
anyway,
on that point though, man,
yeah.
because that 1%, and I hope we don't get too off topic on this, but when it comes to the people that look like they have it together, a la our P. Diddy situation, it's never always as it seems. So don't aspire to be that celebrity. And I hate bringing this up. It's just because it's fresh, and I've been thinking about how crazy it is for someone to have at one point be so powerful and so have so much fame and have so much celebrity. He's spending his night in jail right now. And
Right.
I've been just kind of on that all day. And it kind of leads into a lot of the things you had just said. So anyway,
Yeah, you've got to be very careful about who your role models are.
Yes, exactly.
I haven't had a lot of role models, but I've had key role models. I think you probably heard my other interviews. My father was my first role model.
Exactly.
And the thing that my father had that took me years to develop was humility. My father was never afraid to say he was not great at something. He was never. It took me until I was in my 30s to learn that.
Yeah.
So if you can learn that now at a young age, you're already ahead of the game.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man.
Anyway, so you were talking about my career, my business, and all of that. So I just to go back a few years, I've been in radio and television and online production for many years now. But I had a bit of a change of direction when my kids went off to college. And I told them both, I think it would be a great idea because the grades were pretty good, but they weren't 4.8 students. They were good, but not great. And I said, I think you should interview. And for the schools, I think it'll help you. I could not believe how difficult it was to set up interviews at these colleges. Because they didn't have the manpower. Some colleges didn't even do interviews. I said, how could you admit somebody without talking to them, without finding out who they are?
Goodness.
So I started a company called Like Live. And Like Live was a platform for kids all over the world, mostly for the kids in the US that couldn't afford to fly to the colleges they want to go to upload videos. And we started with 4 or 5 schools in Claremont in Southern California. It worked out pretty well. We went from 4 schools to 20 schools to 30 schools. And a company called ETS, who does the SATs, the GREs, all of that, came in, saw what we were doing, and they said, we'd like to buy you.
Oh my goodness.
They bought our company, and we expanded from 30 schools to about 120 schools and a lot of graduate schools. But this gave kids the opportunity to upload interviews that ordinarily they wouldn't be able to do.
Right.
And we have some stories that would make your hair stand up. Let me just give you one quick story. A woman, she was a minority. She was 18 years old. She had fairly good grades, but not incredible. They did an interview with her like this, and she says, I just want to say on my grades, I know my grades aren't quite, but I grew up in a motherless household, and I helped raise my two younger siblings. And she says, if I have the opportunity to get into your school, I'm telling you that I will take advantage of it. Long story short, she got into that school. She graduated with honors. She went on to graduate school. This is again, presenting yourself. And I think that it's just so important to be able to position yourself. I have something that I always say, I don't want to get off tangent here. My 3 Ps: posture, positivity, and positioning. When I say posture, I mean that literally and figuratively. How do you carry yourself? Do you carry yourself with confidence? Positivity. Do you come in with solutions, or you to come in with problems? And the third is positioning. How do you position yourself that you are going to be able to benefit me?
Right.
And if you go in with those 3 Ps set, you're going to be in great shape.
Man, there's so many elements of what you said that really touched me, not only my heart, but I'm sure a lot of the listeners' heart as well. Because the concept of school, and I've said it so many different times, it's what you make it. It's the process in which you go to school. I've gone to school with full athletic scholarship athletes who really just blow off class and never show up, and then they wonder why it's difficult for them to find something. I've gone to school with people that have just rich families, and they're just there, kind of buying the time because it's what their daddy or their mother's paying for. Going to schools in which people are absolutely struggling. You have to make notes, and then you have to go meet up with someone to get copies of the book, and you're struggling. One kid would drive. I went to Stony Brook University in New York, and one kid would drive from Connecticut all the way to New York, 2 hours every single day. And I'm around, actual athletes that are complaining about walking in a bookstore and getting their free books. And that platform and that concept that you created is incredible, and it's just an incredible platform for a lot of people. The question I actually have, though, is what is the kind of the training process that you may offer when it comes to this platform, and then how young do you typically start? So is it something that you go train middle school kids about, and then high school, and how do you track it to make sure people know this exists? So if it's a parent that may be struggling, they want to send them to college, but they have already kind of put it in their head, look, I can't afford it. What are you doing to making sure that every single person knows about this platform and knows it exists?
So we are, because of exactly the reasons you said, we work with a lot of college students mostly. I'll talk about that in a second. We work with people in transition. We work with housewives that have raised their kids and want to get back into the workforce. Because we know their audience, we do not charge a lot of money. We're not one of these groups, these companies that says you got to pay $10,000, you got to come to 20 sessions. That's not how I work. I hate these psychiatrists or psychologists. I hope you don't have too many listening that just want you to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep paying me an hourly fee. I don't work that way. I am here to try to solve your problem. And if I can do it in 2 sessions or 5 sessions, I want to do that. I don't want to drag you on forever because it's costing you money. And I want to make sure that I hit your problems. But mostly the people that I talk to are people in college and just graduating college. That's my sweet spot, because that's the time that the networking has to start. I always wanted to surround myself with good people. People say you are who you surround yourself with. And that's exactly right. And when I graduated college, I had and this was, 40 years ago. I had an incredible network. I had people in my, we didn't have it was a Rolodex at the time. It wasn't online, but I had people
like, give us some context. What year were you at USC?
I graduated in 79.
Okay. Actually, one of a teacher I work with, when he graduated from SC too. I can't remember the year. I want to say it was around OJ Simpson.
Yeah, that was before me. So OJ was 67. We won the national championship in 78. My last full year.
And just for the record, I am a huge Reggie Bush fan too. So.
Okay, Reggie's great. Love Reggie. I'm glad he's back.
Probably gave him Heisman back, but damn done.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So anyway, that's who I work with, and that's who I feel. Sometimes I feel if I'm talking, I do have spoken to young kids. I worked a lot with veterans, so I spoke with a lot of their families. We had a program called Kidpreneur, and we used to help kids with what they should be concentrating on, what they should be thinking about if they're building a business. But mostly where I come into real full effect are people in college, and then kids that are in graduate school, and people that are graduating, that are starting their careers. I also have a big clientele of people that are in their 22 to 32 year age group that
Right.
have not really found themselves. They
Yeah.
thought this is what they want to do when they graduate. They're not happy with their job. They're not happy with what they're doing. I help a lot of them find out who they are.
Yes. And that's important too, because I've always learned, and I've been to every single type of college and school that you can imagine. I started at a public school, went to a private Catholic school, got recruited there. Then I went to a small liberal arts school. Then I tore my ACL, went to a community college. Then I went to a big public university. Then I finished online. So in that time, I've met so many people that use school. Some go part-time while they work. Even my mother, who has an associate's degree, but she was able to get her CDL license and transportation and all that. So there's so many angles in which you can use the college game with that, when it comes to, and I do want to give you the opportunity to talk about your book a little bit, when it comes to actually nailing down curriculum and nailing down a specific way that people can work the college system, how does Smarter Minds, how does it speak to that? Because there's so many angles in which people can use to benefit from college.
Right. Smarter Minds goes to what's important in college.
Okay.
You'll never hear me say anything bad about school. I loved my 4 years at SC. I absolutely loved them. But the thing that I loved most about them were how I grew up. I grew up in an much better emotionally. I became much more confident around people. And my friends today I still have about 20 or 30 friends from college that we are still close with. My wife always jokes, I haven't seen some of these guys for a couple of years. We get back together. It's like we were together yesterday.
Yeah,
that's the relation. You probably have that same thing.
Yeah.
Guys, and we're in a fraternity. We can just get together, and it's like we've never, and nobody ever gets mad about anything. We just joke each other. We bust each other's, little bit. But that's what I got out of college.
Yeah.
I got out of college how to collaborate, how to work, how to get along with people. The other big thing I want to say that's so important is for people to try to become likable. It is so important because that's how you build your network. Are you somebody that I want to work with? Are you somebody that I want to grab a lunch with, during work, or grab a beer with after work? People don't think enough about, is he going to like me on a more of a social level? Obviously, you've got to be good at what you do. That goes without saying. But the other thing is, are you somebody that people want to work with? Are you somebody that people want to socialize with? Right. That has opened up all my doors. I gave a quick example in my books that talks about I had 3 big exits within about a 3-year period. One is my Like Live. I sold that company. The other is that my dad got me involved with some real estate when I was younger, and I had him for about 35, 40 years, and we did very well. We got monthly checks. We decided to sell those buildings, and we had a bit of a windfall from that. And the third was a buddy of mine had a motor vehicle software new idea. I got to tell you, I know zero about motor vehicle software, zero. But I was friends with him and I trusted him. And we sold that company. So I had 3 successful exits within about 3 years. 2 of them, I didn't lose any sleep over. I trusted the people. One, I had a lot of sleepless nights over. People know me for my Like Live. They don't know me for my other stuff. But you can be very successful based on your relationships alone.
So given everything that's going on now with AI, with just the way the world is moving, and the direction that the world is moving, what would you say is next for your business? What's your next phase? Because regardless, and I just have to make sure I mention this as well, regardless of artificial intelligence, it's not going to stop you from needing to build relationships, guys. It's not going to stop you from everything we're talking about, these people skills, these being likable, these making sure you're looking people in the eye, making sure you're not wasting people's time. Artificial intelligence is not going to just do the work for you. It's not going to happen. All right. You still have to do these things. What would you say is your next phase, and how you want to build your business and stuff like that?
Well, the first thing people need to realize, they say, well, what do you think about change? And I say, you know what? I don't think change is good or bad, but it is inevitable. And you need to be able to go and know that these things are going to change. Things are going to change. And that's one of the most important thing about going back to the networking. That's the single most important thing about networking, because as we get older, I can tell you, my kids are much better on the computer than I am. I have a young person working for me now. I got to tell you, if I have to do anything past the A, B's, and C's, I have to call them in here. But you know what makes
I'm laughing
me
because I had a call earlier and somebody was about to ask me a technology question and I'm getting scared. I'm like, look, man, I might be good on, he was a former guy, I might be good on the mic with the hosting and all that, but you get me on these Gmail apps and all that stuff, I might freeze up on you. So yeah, I have
but
my
what's so important, what's so important about that is I know who to pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
So if you have these personal relationships, and I get stuck all the time on things, I've got to tell you, I'm bad at more things than I'm good at.
Right.
But I've got to tell you, I can pick up the phone or go to my phone and say, listen, I'm having a problem with this. Can you get over here and fix it? Or can you do it remotely? And that's why personal relationships are so important, because time is going to change. There's going to be things 10 years from now that we never even had an idea. But if you get the people that are ahead of the curve, that know how to deal with these things, you're golden.
Yes, and that's huge, man. That's huge. So the you win in life with people, and I'll kind of close this out with another sports analogy. One of the greatest coaches of all time, Pat Summitt, the late Pat Summitt, former late ball coach, would always say, you win in life with people. You can go back and look at every single speech he's ever given. You win in life with people, and go look at what she's built. And it still holds true today, because there will be some difference. There will be a change. Like you just said, it is inevitable, guys. We have, I mean, I teach at the school named the Center for Creative Education, and we have the kids making up their own city. I have a kid said we're going to have flying cars. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's not even that far off, because we have cars that are all electric and flying cars now. We can do away with airports and all that kind of stuff. So all that being said, man, I do want to be very respectful of your time. Can you just tell people how they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you? Got to go ahead and put all that stuff out there, man.
Yeah. So my book is Smarter Minds. It's on Amazon. You can find it anywhere. It's available in all formats. And just if you're interested in my consultation, working with me, just go to my website, smartermindsnetwork.com. smartermindsnetwork.com, and you can find everything on there. My social media, everything is on there.
Got it. So the way I close out all the shows, Bill, is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back to being that wide-eyed freshman kid at USC. You kind of think you're going to be maybe playing tennis. You don't know what's going to be going on. And I don't know if you knew you were going to be a public speaker then, but, pretend that freshman has come into the Zoom room. Give that young man some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
Yeah, I would say the most important thing I could say is, no matter what you think of yourself now, always have humility. Always know that there's going to be somebody better and smarter and faster and stronger than you. And if you have humility, you will have a much better path to success.
That's it, man. The mic is officially dropping with that. And again, as the promise that I made, the guarantee I make to you guys on this show every single time, you will not, whatever it is you're going through, you won't be feeling like you're going through it alone, because there's so many people that are out there that have been there, done that, and they're here, their job, their role in life. They've taken that role to help others get to where it is they want to go. So all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.